The night they kicked my garage doors in, I swear the whole place froze mid-breath 1 second. Folks were laughing over brisket and sweet tea. The next, Officer Derek Bradley's voice was ricocheting off the walls, barking about shutting down illegal operations, his hand hovering over his gun like he'd been waiting for this moment his whole life. Outside, Karen Sullivan, Maplewood Heights' self-appointed queen, stood grinning with her phone up, like she'd just bagged the trophy kill. What she didn't know was, the man she thought she could scare into shutting up had a history she couldn't see coming, and by the time she realized it, it'd be too late. Let me back up a sec. 8 months earlier, this same garage was just boxes of Christmas lights and a busted recliner. I'd lost my engineering job at Google after the layoffs, and with Sarah gone, cancer took her 2 years back. There was just me and Tyler, my 9-year-old, figuring out how to keep the lights on. Sarah used to tell me, even when I was pulling big paychecks as a lawyer, Jack, you're never more alive than when you've got smoke in your eyes and people are smiling over your food. I promised her, if the worst happened, I'd cook for people, make them happy. And when the tech world slammed the door on me, I kept that promise, converted the garage, got every permit, and Mitchell's backyard barbecue became the spot people drove 20 minutes for. Not everyone loved it. Karen came after me from day one. Decibel meters, parking complaints, filing with the city about the smell lowering property values. The smell, for God's sake. She wanted control, and when she couldn't get it through the HOA's rules, she found someone who carried a badge and a grudge. Bradley, whose brother once lost a job at a startup where I caught a security flaw. He blamed me ever since. That's the thing about grudges, they ferment until they're toxic. It escalated. Fake reviews from some college kid she paid and got scammed by. Whisper campaigns at my kid's school, little boys cornering Tyler to tell him his dad was a crook. I dug into her history. Patterson family, driven out for being gay. The Gonzalez family, harassed over Mexican music. James Washington, a widowed vet with PTSD, stripped of custody after her calls to the cops. This wasn't neighborhood politics, it was a pattern of cruelty, so I fought back the way I knew how. Documents, paper trails, social media. My TikTok barbecue versus HOA. Karen blew up overnight. The killer blow was security footage of her telling a table of black customers they weren't the kind of clientele she wanted. That went viral. 200,000 shares. Local news, civil rights groups knocking at her door. She panicked, hired a fake PR firm, got scammed again, and somehow kept digging her own grave. Then came the night of the raid. Sirens cutting through the smell of hickory, SWAT van in my driveway. Bradley yelling armed robbery, rifles sweeping over pregnant women, kids face down on the concrete. Tyler against the wall, sobbing, please don't kill my daddy. Bradley pressed his gun to my head and called me Tat Boy. But here's what they didn't plan for. One of my regulars, Mason Torres, was live streaming dinner to TikTok when the raid began. 3 million people watched in real time as armed cops tore through a family barbecue joint. CNN picked it up, the mayor showed up mid-raid, and ordered them to stand down. 6 months later, we were in federal court. I had everything: Karen's texts to Bradley, her emails targeting minorities, proof the emergency call was staged. Judge Chen didn't just rule in my favor, she burned their house down in the legal sense. 2.1 million million from Karen, $800K from Bradley, $300K fine on the HOA. Bradley faced federal charges. Karen's marriage imploded, her kids disowned her, and last I saw she was bagging groceries with a "Hello, I'm Karen" name tag. Mitchell's backyard barbecue. 6 locations now. My book hit the Times list. CNN made a documentary. Tyler went from a scared little boy to the kid who tells classmates, my dad fought bullies and won. Maplewood Heights selected a new, diverse HOA board. I saw Karen once more, at a gas station. She whispered, I'm sorry, ice on the floor. I told her, tell that to the Pattersons, the Gonzalezes, and James Washington. Because this was never just about me, it was about proving bullies can be beaten when you document every step, stay strategic, and never give up. Justice takes time to marinate, but when it's done, it's sweeter than Kansas City molasses. And for every Karen out there, remember, karma's the best seasoning. So what about you? Ever had to stare down a bully, a toxic boss, a crooked neighbor? Tell your story. Let's make sure they know we're not going quietly. You know what I mean. I thought winning in court was the last chapter, you know. Like in the movies, judge hammers the gavel, villain slinks away, credits roll. But real life doesn't fade to black. It lingers. The smell of the smoke from that raid, the sound of Tyler's voice begging strangers not to kill his dad, that doesn't leave you. And sometimes, the people you've beaten aren't done playing. 2 months after the verdict, I was locking up the downtown location, my first big expansion, when I spotted a black SUV idling across the street. Windows tinted so dark you couldn't see inside, but I could feel eyes on me. I've got that lawyer's gut for trouble, and it told me this wasn't a coincidence. The next day, a letter arrived in a plain white envelope, no return address, no stamps, meaning someone had dropped it in my mailbox by hand. Inside was a single printed sheet: drop the media appearances. Stop talking about Karen, or we'll make you wish you had. No signature, but the font was Times New Roman, and the spacing. I'd seen formatting like that before in the Maplewood Heights HOA newsletters Karen used to send. Thing is, Karen didn't have that kind of reach anymore. Which meant somebody was working for her, or worse, with her. And that's when I remembered something from the trial. There were 3 other HOA board members who'd resigned quietly right before our case went public. They claimed family reasons, but their emails showed up in the discovery files. And buried in there was a weird thread between Karen, Bradley, and a man named Roger Albright. Realtor. Ex-cop. And, as it turned out, one of the most connected property flippers in the county. Let me back up. Roger's business thrived on buying houses cheap when families moved suddenly. And you can guess how he made that happen. HOA pressure. Police safety inspections. Anonymous code violation complaints. Sell low or life in hell. I'd been so focused on Karen and Bradley that I'd missed the bigger play. My BBQ wasn't just an eyesore to her. It was sitting on land Roger had been trying to acquire for years. So now, the war had a new front. I started digging against city property records, court filings, bank liens. What I found was a spiderweb. Half a dozen families in Maplewood Heights and 2 neighboring communities who'd sold under distress, only to have Rogers LLC buy their homes within weeks, flip them, and sell to wealthy clients at double the price. Karen was the perfect tool. She drove them out. Roger cashed in. Bradley. He kept the pressure hot enough that people came fast, and here's the twist: Bradley's not in uniform anymore. He took an early medical retirement after my case. But the SUV I'd seen, registered to a security company he now consulted for. Guess whose properties that company patrols? Rogers. So yeah, I'd won the battle. The war? Different story. I didn't go public right away. I learned from the first round you don't swing until you've got the knockout ready. I started attending city zoning meetings, accidentally running into displaced families and listening to their stories. One woman, Lila Thompson, told me how her autistic son had been terrified by random safety inspections at night. Another, a retired teacher, showed me letters almost identical to the one I'd gotten. Same Times New Roman, same spacing. Every piece was the same pattern, the same playbook, but here's where it gets cinematic. Tyler. Yeah, my kid comes home from school one day with his Chromebook open to a Google Doc. Dad, I think you should see this, he says. It's a chat log between 2 students. One of them, Roger's nephew. And he's bragging about how his uncle's gonna make barbecue boy sell. My son's in 4th grade, and he's suddenly holding evidence of the next move in a real estate shakedown. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with the same laptop I'd used to draft the first cease and desist to Karen. Only this time, I wasn't writing to shut someone down. I was building a case for the district attorney RICO violations. Organized harassment. Fraud, it's not done yet. I'm still collecting. Still listening. But every day, more people come forward. And this time, it's not just Karen on the hook, it's the network behind her. The ones who thought a barbecue joint was just a nuisance in the way of their payday. You can call it paranoia. Or you can call it what Sarah used to seeing the whole chessboard. I know now that what happened in Maplewood Heights wasn't an isolated story. It's a business model. And if I take it down, maybe we can save the next family before they're eating takeout in a motel room, wondering how their perfect little street turned on them. So no, this isn't the end. Not for me. Not for Tyler. And definitely not for them. Tell me, if you had the chance to burn the whole crooked system down, would you take it? Or would you let sleeping dogs lie, knowing they'll wake up hungry?